There's a plant growing in the cracks of my sidewalk right now. I didn't plant it. I didn't water it. I didn't even know it was edible until recently. And yet, it has been feeding people for over 4,000 years. Most people pull it out and throw it away every single week. This is purslane, a plant so common it's treated like a nuisance. And it is, technically, a weed. But it's also one of the most nutritious leafy greens on the planet. You can harvest it endlessly. It costs almost nothing to start. And once it finds your garden, it never really leaves. The strange part is, the whole world used to know this. Purslane has been eaten in India, China, Greece, and Mexico for thousands of years. Ancient Romans grew it intentionally. Turkish families still cook it into salads and stews today. In parts of the Middle East, it's sold fresh at market stalls the same way we sell spinach. And then, somewhere along the way, the modern world decided it was a weed. It was removed from gardens, pulled from beds, discarded. Scientists, however, never stopped studying it. Because purslane contains something almost no other land plant does. Omega-3 fatty acids. The same kind found in fish, in a leafy green. Growing through your concrete. I keep thinking about that. The reason purslane grows so aggressively is the same reason it's so useful. It is built to survive. It stores water in its thick, rubbery leaves. It can handle drought, poor soil, full sun, partial shade. It doesn't need you, that's the point. Most greens we grow, lettuce, spinach, arugula, they need consistent moisture, rich soil, and cool temperatures. The moment summer hits, they bolt, they turn bitter, they die. Purslane thrives in that exact moment. When everything else gives up, it spreads. So how do you actually grow it yourself? First, you might already have it. Walk outside. Look at the base of walls along pathways and garden beds between other plants. Purslane has small, paddle-shaped leaves, thick, slightly glossy. Red stems, usually. If you find it growing wild, you don't need to do anything else, just let it go and harvest from it. But if you want to start from scratch, a small packet of seeds costs between $1 and $2, sometimes less. You scatter them on the surface of loose soil, you don't bury them, they need light to germinate. You water lightly. And then, you wait about a week, they sprout fast. Within 3 to 4 weeks, you have something harvestable. And here's the important part. You don't pull the whole plant. You cut the tips, the top few centimeters, then you walk away. And it regrows, faster than before. Every cut stimulates new branching. One small patch becomes a continuous supply through the entire warm season. That's the cycle. Cut, wait, cut again. The most common mistake is harvesting too late. When purslane gets tall and starts to flower, the leaves become smaller. The stems get tough. You want to catch it young, when the plant is still low and spreading outward. That's when the flavor is at its best. Mild, slightly lemony, with a gentle crunch. The second mistake is overwatering. People treat purslane like a normal garden green. They water it constantly. But this plant evolved in dry conditions. Too much water and the roots can rot. Water it once or twice a week, less in humid climates. The third mistake is letting it seed freely near plants you care about. Purslane produces thousands of seeds per plant. If you let it flower and set seed, it will appear everywhere next season. That's not necessarily bad. But if you want control, harvest before it flowers, or designate one corner of the garden where it can do what it wants, I want to be honest with you. Purslane is not going to replace every green in your kitchen. The leaves are small, the stems are thin. A single harvest from 1 square meter gives you enough for a salad or a side dish, not a week's worth of groceries. But here's what it does do. It produces continuously for 4 to 5 months in warm climates. It asks almost nothing of you. And in the heat of summer, when markets are running low on fresh greens and everything in your garden is struggling, purslane is still there, still growing, still ready. That consistency has real value, not dramatic value, quiet value, the kind you notice slowly. There is something I keep coming back to. Purslane doesn't just survive in poor conditions. It actually becomes more nutritious under mild stress. When the soil is lean, when the sun is intense, when water is limited, the plant produces more antioxidants, more omega-3s, more vitamins. It's as if it concentrates everything useful inside itself when the world gets harder. And I think about how many times I've walked past this plant in a parking lot, or pulled it from my garden bed without a second thought, and thrown it into a bag with the other weeds. This was always here, always edible, always doing something remarkable. I just didn't know what I was looking at. Purslane is edible raw or cooked. Raw, it works well in salads. It holds up better than lettuce and doesn't wilt as fast. Cooked, it becomes soft and slightly mucilaginous, similar to okra, which makes it a natural thickener for soups and stews. A simple preparation. Olive oil, garlic, lemon, salt. That's all it needs. But one thing worth knowing. Purslane contains oxalic acid, not a dangerous amount, but for people with kidney conditions or who are prone to kidney stones, eating large quantities regularly is worth discussing with a doctor. For most people, eating it a few times a week poses no concern. Also, if you're harvesting wild purslane growing near roads or treated lawns, wash it thoroughly. Better yet, grow your own. You know exactly what's in your soil. You know what you used or didn't use. That matters. I've started thinking differently about the plants that appear without being invited. The ones that push through pavement, that grow in the shadow of walls no one tends. We call them weeds because they don't ask for permission. But maybe that's exactly why they survived. While everything cultivated and fragile required attention, care, optimal conditions, purslane was just there, in the cracks, in the margins, in forgotten corners, waiting to be recognized. There's something almost instructive about that. Some things don't need to be discovered, they just need to be noticed. Purslane is not alone. Once I learned to recognize it, I started noticing others. Dandelion, lamb's quarters, wood sorrel, chickweed, all of them growing uninvited in gardens, sidewalks, vacant lots. All of them edible, all of them eaten for centuries, by people who couldn't afford to waste a plant that simply appeared. There's a name for this knowledge. Ethnobotany, the study of how human cultures have used wild plants throughout history. And when you start reading about it, a strange feeling arrives. Not nostalgia exactly, something quieter than that. The feeling that somewhere between supermarkets and packaged salad bags and perfectly uniform produce, we forgot an entire layer of the world. A layer that was always visible, that never disappeared. That continued growing through every generation that stopped looking at it. I think about my grandmother. She would have known these plants by sight, not because she studied them, but because she had to. And somehow that practical knowledge, earned through necessity, passed down through watching, was considered so ordinary that no one thought to write it down. And then one generation didn't need it anymore, and it was gone, or almost gone. The plants are still here. The knowledge just got quiet. I am not asking you to change your diet. I'm not telling you to forage everything you eat. This is not that kind of video. But I am asking something small. The next time you walk outside, look down. Not at your phone, not at the road ahead. At the base of walls, between paving stones, along the edge of garden beds, you might see purslane, small, low, spreading outward with those thick paddle leaves and reddish stems. And if you do, don't pull it. Crouch down. Look at it for a moment. This plant has been growing in human spaces for thousands of years. It followed us as we built cities. It pushed through our concrete. It kept showing up season after season, offering itself without ceremony. Pick one leaf. Feel how thick and waxy it is. That is water stored for a drought that hasn't come yet. That is adaptation. That is something ancient and patient and completely indifferent to whether you notice it or not. But you can. You can notice it. And sometimes that is enough to change how you see everything growing quietly around you.